This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should, too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida.
This is
Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. Staff writer Richard Sims on deck with cruise news, and then going to hold him through to talk about Carnival Firenze. That is the sister ship to Carnival Venezia. We'll be doing that review just after the news. But first, as always, staff writer Richard Sims. Hey, Richard.
Good afternoon, Doug.
Good afternoon. Our first story involves a man who was not allowed to board a cruise for a very specific reason.
One of the things we try and talk about as often as possible is that before heading to a port for your cruise, you should really make sure you are 100% prepared. And I'm not just talking about making sure you have everything you need, the clothes you need if you're going to Alaska or, your own personal supplies, but have your paperwork in order, have any documentation you're going to need, etc. Unfortunately, when Mike Ashton and his family arrived at the port in Southampton, they were going to board P&O's Ventura. It turned out he had not submitted the form he needed to in order to bring a mobility scooter on board. Because of this, he was denied boarding. He did this incredibly generous thing and was told his family, go ahead. I will stay behind. Rather than ruining everyone's vacation, he did tell them to go. Obviously, this is a really terribly sad and awful situation, but it goes back to the fact that he didn't have the proper paperwork. The cruise line says on their site exactly what needs to be done in order to bring a mobility scooter on board. And they explained several reasons that they don't let people bring them on board without knowing in advance, including storage issues and making sure that they have crew available to help if it's needed. Obviously, this got a lot of people really angry that he was turned away, especially folks who don't cruise and who don't kind of understand the ins and outs of it. But again, it's important to note that anyone with any type of health issue should make sure they are, checking the small and not so small print to make sure they've done whatever is necessary to board. Can you bring extension cords? Can you bring your CPAP? Will they have fresh water for your CPAP machine? And again, with the mobility scooters, in this case, they did not. There was a very specific form they needed to fill out. They didn't, and so he couldn't bring it on board. It's sad, but ultimately the responsibility is on the cruiser.
And up in the last frontier, we have another scooter-related incident with injuries on this one.
So when I first heard this story, I was all about the injured passenger. I was ready to wave a team passenger shirt. But then as I learned more, I kind of switched sides, and you'll see why. So last year, a couple was on a cruise to Alaska, and they disembarked from the ship in Ketchikan and rented a motorized scooter because the guy had some mobility issues. They got on board a bus for the excursion. They say that when the bus turned left, the husband's scooter tipped over and it caused extensive injuries, which they didn't really notice until later, much later, really. Up until this point, like I said, I was totally on their side. But then you find out via the lawsuit that they have filed that the bus in question had straps. You've seen these kind of things. They have them on buses at Disney World, where when you get in, you can strap yourself down and your scooter so that, it doesn't move around. They had these straps available, but they opted not to use it. Their lawsuit alleges that it was basically the responsibility of the bus driver to make sure they used the straps. In other words, and this is a big pet peeve of mine, they didn't take personal responsibility for their decision not to use the straps. They looked for someone to blame. And look, you are totally free to not take that precaution, but you then don't get to turn around and sue. I can't help but wonder what would have happened if, say, the bus driver stopped and came back and said, listen, you need to wear the strap. It's not the law, but we really highly recommend it. Would they have complied? We'll never know. But now they're suing for damages, not only to him, physically, but to their marriage, which has apparently suffered as a result of this accident. And, well, I guess that's the fault of the driver, too.
I was digging through this filing with the state of Alaska, and it doesn't seem like they're asking for that much, which is interesting to me. Like for a punctured rib and or punctured lung and a couple of broken ribs, I think you'd ask for more than $90,000.
I think one of the things that happens in cases like this is that they often hope there will be an additional amount handed in, like pain and suffering, things like that. And the other thing is, it says punctured lung and broken ribs, but I don't think, there are different levels to that. Like, for example, you might recall a year or two ago, I was running in the driveway because I'm an idiot, and I tripped and fell, and I hurt for several days, and then finally went to the hospital and found out that, yes, I had several broken ribs. But I didn't know it at the time because, a broken rib doesn't necessarily mean it's, it's not, it can be much less severe than it sounds. Punctured lung is interesting to me because, I would think that if I had a punctured lung, I would immediately know it. And they go very specifically out of their way to say they didn't notice it right away. So the injuries might not be as severe as they sound. That's not to say they're lying about their injuries. It's just to say that medical terms can sometimes be a lot scarier than they actually are.
You kind of touched on this, but if you're rolling around with a 91-year-old gentleman in a wheelchair on a mobility scooter, I would think that as a family member or a travel companion, you'd also want to make sure he was strapped in, not taking any blame away from anyone. But I would think that, just to double check, be your own advocate. It just seems like you'd cross that bridge quite a bit.
Yeah, one would think. One would think in your mobility scooter.
This next story, a man goes overboard and the family is blaming the cruise ship casino.
Again, we have a story where I feel terrible for the people involved, but do not begin to understand how they think the cruise line is responsible. In this case, a young man was sailing with his family aboard P&O's Pacific Adventure. He jumped overboard, and as often happens in these cases, they did recover his body, but he did not survive. And sadly, they were only like 4 hours away or something from the end of the trip, which was supposed to end in Sydney. It turns out that he'd lost a lot of money in the casino, having allegedly first burned through $5,000 of his own money and then borrowing another $4,000 from his mom and losing that too. And that's where this story gets tricky for me because, again, we're talking about personal responsibility, both on the part of the young man and his mom. Had this guy lost the money, his own money, and then gone to, the casino bank and said, hey, I need to borrow another $4,000. I could see them looking at how much he's lost and saying, no, not necessarily. And, or, you don't have the collateral to back this up. But that's not what happened. What happened was he lost his own money and then he went and borrowed money from his mom and lost that too. Now, listen. When I get on a cruise ship, they don't know my financial status. They don't know how much I've brought on board to spend or whether I can afford it. They don't know if I go to you and say, hey, Doug, give me a couple $1,000. I, don't want to go back to the room, or really I don't have the money, but I'll win it. You know how good I am at gambling. The Alliance for Gambling Reform released a statement talking about how the ship is responsible, as is any casino on land. But again, a land-based casino also does not know anything about your economic stability. I know people who spend $10,000 or more while gambling on cruises several times a year. I don't know where they're getting that money. I don't know if they can afford it, really. And it's not my responsibility, nor is it the cruise line casino's responsibility, unless the gambler is borrowing the money from the casino, in which case maybe an argument could be made. I suspect you're going to get some folks probably writing angry letters about Richard and his opinions. And I'm not trying to be insensitive, but this isn't about sensitivity. Again, it's about personal responsibility on behalf of the passenger and his family. And the fact is, I don't understand how they can even think that the cruise line is responsible for this when the cruise line did not provide him with the money. And the cruise line is not responsible for standing over him and saying, you've lost $7,000. Should you maybe quit now? That's not their responsibility.
And that very same P&O cruise ship made some positive headlines.
Yeah, apparently there was a group of students who were stranded because the airline that they were planning on taking home went out of business. And so they had no way of getting home, and they posted on social media. And it kind of, as these things will, it kind of went a little bit viral. And P&O stepped up and picked them up and basically took them home. And I love when we get to report on stuff like that, like whether it's a cruise ship saving people at sea or just, a cruise ship stepping forward and doing something wonderful and awesome, because so much of what gets reported, especially in the mainstream media, is negative, that I like to be able to shine a light on things like that. So I'm really glad you mentioned that.
This next story, I feel like the theme of this month is a lot of cautionary tales out there. Well, this one is for those who love to post stuff on social media.
That is for sure. There was a time when this story totally could have been about me. I mean, I had like 12 Twitter accounts. I was on MySpace and Facebook and every app you could think of. I probably had like 6 different dedicated streams for. I posted every time I ate a peanut because I was sure the world needed to know this. And I still am very active on social media, but I try and be a lot more, curated in what I post and what I post about. And I suspect the same is probably true of Tiffany Banks, the person we're talking about in this story, because about a day before she and her family were going to go on board the Carnival celebration, she found out that the trip had been canceled. Not by her, although it seemed to indicate that it was by her. Adding insult to injury, they weren't just, taking your ordinary trip where they were going to be like, having an inside room or a balcony or something. No, they had spent over $10K on the XL presidential suite, gorgeous, nicest room on the ship. And yet here it was canceled. Apparently what happened was, and there are still details that are unclear about this, and I don't know for sure that we know exactly what happened, but what it appears happened is that at some point she or her husband posted something online that included like their boarding pass number or their confirmation number. Someone out there saw it, created a fake account, and canceled this. Now, what's puzzling to me is why someone would do this, because it's not like by canceling it, they were able to get $10,000. They didn't, I don't think the person who canceled this, was able to get money from it. So I don't get it. But someone went out, created a fake profile, canceled her trip, and needless to say, she was dumbstruck. The situation is sort of still in flux because Carnival offered them, if they wanted to go on the sailing, they could give them 2 inside rooms. And that sounds insulting, but I'm sure it's Carnival trying to do the best they could. It's, it's the celebration. It's probably pretty much a sold out ship. So, it's not like they could just put them in the nicest room on the ship because it was booked now because I'm sure as soon as somebody canceled it, that room got resold. So they did not want to do that, which makes sense. I wouldn't either. Carnival then offered them somewhere around $10,000 in future cruise credit on the condition that Tiffany let the world know Carnival had, resolved the situation, which makes sense because she had gone very public with this. It went viral on TikTok. So clearly Carnival was like, we're getting some bad publicity out of this. We will give you $10K in future cruise credit, but only if you clear our names and we're out there trash talking it. As of now, we're still waiting for an update on the situation. But again, definitely a good precautionary tale. We've heard about people's houses being broken into because they posted on social media that they were traveling, stuff like that. So, we still will have to report on this down the line, I'm sure, when we get more details. All I can think is that maybe Tiffany had some sort of someone out there with a grudge against her or an evil nemesis out there seeking to punish her for some big past unknown grievance, or maybe I just watched too many soap operas. I don't know.
Our next story is good news for folks sailing out of Baltimore as cruise ships are finally returning to the port.
Yeah, you'll recall that back on March 26th, a ship plowed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. And, the bridge came down and the port's been closed ever since. It's hard to believe that was 2 months ago. Doesn't it feel like that was just like a week ago?
Yeah.
But no, it was 2 months ago. Anyway, since then, most of the cruise lines have basically been sailing out of Norfolk. Sometimes they've been shuttling people back and forth between Baltimore and Norfolk. It's been kind of a mess. But now, slowly but surely, we are going to see, starting this weekend, if everything goes as planned, we will see ships returning to Baltimore and sailing out of Baltimore. Carnival released a statement saying how grateful they were to the officials and incredible first responders in Baltimore who've shown great leadership and resolve in this difficult time, as well as our supportive partners in Norfolk, that whole thing. Royal Caribbean is also sailing out of there. What's kind of interesting is that the port is it's not completely ready to go. So what's happening is a 50-foot deep, 400 wide foot channel is going to be open. That's how they will return to sailing. But the original 700-foot channel isn't quite ready yet. So they're hoping to have that by the end of the month, meaning if ships are sailing this weekend, we're very close to the end of the month. So hopefully in a week or two, they will not have to be quite as careful coming in and out because that channel will be widened. Of course, things won't be going back to Baltimore as a whole. They won't be going back to normal there for quite some time. It took 2 months just to sort of get us to the point where we can sail ships out of there. Who knows how long it's going to be before, the infrastructure can be put back in place as far as the bridge is concerned. I suspect that's years away, but it is good news that people sailing out of Baltimore will finally be able to actually, sail out of Baltimore again.
Yeah, the last report I read was 2028 for the bridge to be reopened.
Wow.
So yeah,
which really, that's probably actually, it seems like a long way away, but it's actually probably incredibly quick to get a bridge that important and that big. I mean, that is the lifeblood of Baltimore. They need to get that. Obviously, they want to get that up as soon as they possibly can to get things back to normal. We came off, not only was the cruise industry shut down during COVID, but of course all the supply chains were impacted and everything. We finally start getting back to normal, and what happens, this ship hits the bridge and knocks it out. So Baltimore's had a rough couple of years.
And our listener question comes from Mike, who is getting ready to sail MSC Cruises on a European cruise. Very cool, Mike. He wants to know if U.S. dollars are acceptable for tipping while on board, or does he need to get his hands on some euros?
Here's my thing. When you're handing out tips, money is money. Some people pay in M&Ms on board. I'm not even kidding when I say that. I know someone who, before they get on a ship, buys, lots of chocolate and things like that and gives it to the crew that they deal with instead of tips. So money is money. Yes, you can use American dollars. Yes, you can use euros. That said, you also want to make sure that wherever your trip is going, you have the denominations that you would need off of the ship, because you don't want to have to deal with the whole hassle of figuring out what, the currency exchange rates and stuff. I mean, Doug, you yourself had problems with that just in Halifax when we went to a casino.
Yeah.
And that was just American dollars to Canadian dollars. So, you don't want to have to do the whole euros to American thing. Also, if you decide that you do want euros, I am 99% sure that on most of this type of cruise that's leaving out of Europe, you would be able to go to the casino and get some. You can exchange your American dollars for euros in the casino, I would think. So I would not worry about it where tipping is concerned, but I would make sure that I have the correct currency. Some people count on using their credit cards in ports. I'm not a big fan of that just because I'm very paranoid about having my identity stolen or having somebody get the number to my credit card and I come home and I have a $20,000 bill in Toys R Us Japan or something. So short story long, yes, you will be fine with American dollars, but it wouldn't hurt to get some euros as well as a precaution.
Staff writer Richard Sims will hold you through the break, and we'll do Carnival Firenze next.
Have a question or a comment for the show? Yeah! Send an email or voice memo to doug@cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
The world is constantly changing. Your place for news is still the same. Online and on demand at cruiseradio.net.
Been a lot of cruises over the past couple of months. We did the Sun Princess, the Koningsdam, the Carnival Firenze, and it's time to start talking about them. Staff writer Richard Sims is hanging on still. Thanks for not hanging up. It's all you.
Hey, I know this is your favorite thing in the whole wide world, having the tables turned, but you are the person being interviewed. Let's just dive right in here. Where did you embark from, and exactly what was your embarkation experience at the port?
Carnival Firenze, it was sailing out of Long Beach, California, which means you had to fly into LA. I actually flew from Barcelona to LA, so it was 13 hours, and then got off the plane at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Literally just threw my bag in the hotel and went to the christening of the Firenze, which was the Wednesday night before the sailing date, which was Thursday. It was all a blur at that point. We'll pick up the very next day when I actually boarded as a typical passenger. I got to the cruise terminal around 10 o'clock, and then by 10:45, everyone was walking on the ship. The terminal was super easy. I did everything ahead of time. I didn't even have to go to the check-in desk, really, except just to get my boarding pass scanned. It was scanned 3 times, and I was on the ship. If there wasn't all the hoopla of the ribbon cutting ceremony, I would have been on board probably less than 10 minutes from when you step into the cruise terminal to stepping on board the ship.
You were just get this over with, get out of my way, I want to get on the ship.
Basically, but it was good though. It was just very nice. It was a fast ceremony where a couple of people spoke, the first passengers cut the ribbon, and they were all right, group 1 can board, and we all just boarded.
Am I right that the reason that you were beat was you just came from Sun Princess? Is that correct?
Yeah, accepted a trip, and I wasn't thinking that I had to do another trip back to back. So I legit flew over to Barcelona, did the christening of Sun Princess, and then the next morning at 4 a.m. flew from Barcelona to LA. Yeah, I was a zombie on Wednesday, but Thursday, I was refreshed on Thursday and ready to hit the ground running.
You stumble on board, and one of the things I've always loved about Carnival ships, which is not true of all cruise lines, is that when you walk on, it makes a good impression because it empties you into the main atrium area. I assume that's the same case on this ship, right?
You're going into the atrium. Normally on the Vista class ships, they have that LED dreamscape right in the middle. That isn't there, but there is this big column with a lion. Yeah, it's a 3-story, decks 3, 4, and 5. And then you have your guest relations down there on 3, along with your shore excursions desk. Then, of course, you have the shops on 4. And then 5, you have more shops and shoot off to where you want to go. One of the casinos in Vegas, I can't remember which one it is, has the ceilings painted like sky.
The Bellagio.
Yes. And I don't want to call it a Vegas feel, but that's what it is, right?
Yeah. And now, am I right that okay, let me ask a couple of things here that you can answer all at once. One, this is basically a Vista class ship, despite being Costa instead of Carnival. And it is not an exact replica of, but it's very close to the other Costa ship they brought in, which was the Venezia, right? They're pretty much twins.
Yes, they learned a little bit from the 2 ships. They actually have some added venue on this one, a pop-up venue on deck 11, and added some more seating to the Lido deck area on this one as well. Just little things that it took actual people on the ship to learn, and they've done that. It's basically a Vista class ship. Carnival's calling it a Venezia class because unlike the Vista class, which has on deck 5, which is the Havana area, there's a pool back there. There is no pool back there on this one. Also, there's no hot tubs on the main deck on the Lido deck on this one. And of course, the Vista class does have hot tubs. There's a couple of differences, but nothing. If you know your way around a Vista class ship, you know your way around these ships.
You're on board, you're a zombie, you go to check out your suite. What kind of room did you have on this ship?
Okay, so I had an ocean suite on deck number 7. And let me just preface this by saying I'm not a suite person. I don't normally book these kind of cabins. I had a huge amount of future cruise credit that had to be used. and it had to be used on one sailing. It couldn't carry over or anything like that. I asked my travel agent, what should I do? She said, your best bet is to just book this ocean suite and pay the $22 difference, because otherwise you're going to lose a ton of cash. I booked this ocean suite on deck 7. It was my first time ever booking anything like this, except when you let me take the second room of your Haven suite a couple of years ago on Norwegian. But otherwise, having this to myself, it was nice. It was, I will say, it was probably a little too big for my travel personality because it was just me on board. It felt good to be able to sprawl out on a big L-shaped couch and have a walk-in closet, have a jacuzzi in the bathroom as well. There's a lot of nice perks to this, as well as the perks that carry over from the terrazza areas. You have a wristband to get back to the terrazza area. The room was just huge. I don't remember the square footage, but there was the big bed, the queen or king size bed in there. There's a big L-shaped couch. The balcony probably was about a balcony and a half of a regular balcony, half the size larger. It was interesting though, because you're thinking, okay, this ship came out, it debuted July 4th of 2021. It's only been out a couple of years, 3 years, barely. But the decorations and the decor was very Renaissance and that kind of era. And it was getting some flack, people saying, why is it dated? But you have to remind them, this ship was built by Costa for the Chinese market, who was trying to have our experience of going to Vegas, basically, trying to make it look. They weren't trying to make it look state-of-the-art, a brand new ship. It was in that Renaissance period, how the ship was designed, and that was the allure of the ship when they were selling it over there before, or I guess that was the goal before COVID.
Both the Firenze and the Venezia are very interesting in that, as you've said before, they're familiar in a lot of ways because there's the same basic Carnival design and footsteps, but they're also completely different in the feel of them is a little bit of a mishmash. It's a very odd sensation to be on a ship that is familiar and different at the exact same time.
So when you round the corner on deck 5 and you see the teppanyaki place and the piano bar and bonsai sushi, and you walk a little bit further, and Alchemy Bar is going to be up there. The Alchemy Bar setup is there, but it's called the Amari Bar. Now, they do have half the menu is Alchemy Bar drinks, but you're thinking, okay, it's a Vista class ship. I'm going to see the Alchemy Bar, but it's called the Amari Bar there. But as you walk your way from forward to aft on deck number 5, you do see a lot of that where nothing will look familiar, but things will also look familiar.
All right, let's talk about one of the most controversial things on these ships, which is the actual Lido deck itself and the pool area. I did not spend a lot of time there when I was on the sister ship, Venezia. I found it a very weird area. What was your take on this?
Okay, so let me preface this by saying that I could be a little slanted here because I am not a sun person. I think I've been on a lot of cruises and I can count on one hand how many times I've actually laid out by a pool. For me, it didn't bother me, but I will say this for the people who I was speaking to on board the ship. Yes, it is covered. There is a dome that can be shut during inclement weather. How am I going to explain this? I'm going to break this down by saying that on a normal ship, there's those two decks, right? Deck 10 and 11. Open, outside, fun in the sun type decks. This ship, deck 11, is actually covered. It's an enclosed space on both sides. Think of a seating area type area. And then on the bottom, it's just basically the pool and maybe 30 feet of real estate to lay out and stuff. There's also a stage down there. Not a lot of space, but as you go to the back of the ships, the aft pool on Lido is where all the fun is. That's where the DJ is set up. That's where people are having a good time. There's 2 giant hot tubs out there on both sides of the pool. Typical Vista class cruise ship. The action definitely is in the back of the ship. In the middle of the ship is more, there's some sun seekers out there, but it's more of a chill area.
I wanted them to move some of the things that they did in the Lido deck area back to the back deck. For example, when I was on Venezia, they were doing the Family Feud auditions, one of the big draws in the Lido area. And it was a weird fit because there were people there just trying to lay by the pool, and it echoes a lot because it's an enclosed area. And even when the sunroof is open, it still kind of echoes. And I thought that would be a much better fit for the back of the ship, because you're right. The pool on the back of the ship is exactly what you want from the Lido deck. I can see why people don't necessarily, for people who are looking for the traditional Carnival Lido deck experience, that pool probably is not going to be their favorite place.
Yeah, I guess you could call the Lido deck a courtyard.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great word for it.
Mhm.
With the staircases coming down, and even the bar on the level above the pool is just, it's a very odd kind of mostly indoor, a little bit outdoor. There's ping pong tables. It's just a really weird mishmash of a space that, from a design point of view, I liked it. But I think I would have liked it more if it was on land than if it was on sea, because the other thing I did not like about it was you really don't have much ocean view when you're at the Lido. Usually when you're by a pool on a ship, you can look over and see the ocean, and that's not really the case here. It's more enclosed.
Yeah, they definitely have. I did notice this on deck number 5 and deck 11, between the two pools, the mid and aft pool on Lido. On deck 11, though, there were tons of loungers on both the port and starboard side, and on deck 5 forward as well. There was a lot of seating space. You could tell that they're okay, we have to find some places to put these chairs to accommodate everyone, because not everyone's going to be able to hang out by one of these pools.
Is deck 5 sort of the promenade deck? Am I right on that?
Yeah, you could say that.
I found it was funny. I really didn't wander around the 5th deck on Venezia until the last day. And I was like, why didn't I spend more time out here? Because that was the deck where you really got a lot more spaces, great seating areas, really good contact with the sea. And of course, at the back of the ship, you have the terrazza area. Now, on my ship, the terrazza was only available to terrazza guests during the day, but at night, anybody could go out there. Was that true here too?
Yes, I think it was after 7 o'clock, maybe.
I noticed that there were very few people using the area. Did you find that to be true as well? I found that to be true during the day and during the night, which was surprising because I loved the area. I thought it was beautiful.
Yes, and I absolutely loved the fact that no one was out there. In fact, when I sailed Venezia, it was the same way. No one was out there at all during the sea days, and it was nice sea days. I don't care who you are or how many cruises you've been on, just leaning over that rail and hearing the water getting churned up by the Azipods down there, it's the most relaxing thing ever.
And they also have those great seats that are at the back of the ship, overlooking the wake. Comfortable little 2-person couches. It's heaven back there. And it's just really surprising to me how few people actually take advantage of that, whether they're staying in the terrazza or not. One of the things that they've done on this ship is that they've taken a lot of Carnival favorites, for example, Guy's Burgers, and it's what you know, but it's a little bit different. The design is different. There's a couple different items on the menu. And that's not the only one. There's not a blue iguana.
Yeah, it's called the Tomadoro Mexican Italian fusion, and it's basically a blue iguana with meatball subs. Like it's really. I think that they were just trying to have fun with the Italian thing, calling it the Tomadoro and having a tomato with a Mexican hat on, just typical cliche stuff. And then the Guy's Burger joint across the way. Yeah, they have the pepperoni pizza burger was one of them, and it's just like pepperoni and mozzarella and a lot of, I think, garlic on it maybe, or garlic aioli, the donkey sauce. And then the other one they have is the super melty moots, I believe. That's the fresh mozzarella, tomato, basil, and balsamic vinaigrette, I believe. But also in addition on deck 10, where the Blue Iguana tequila bar normally is, that is called Rococo. I guess you can think of it as a Fat Tuesdays. It's all just Slurpees, or what do you call them? Not smoothies, but mixed frozen drinks.
Basically frozen drinks.
Yeah. Half a dozen of those there. And a normal bar too, you can get vodka soda and beers, and there's taps there as well. That's one space. And then across the deck from that, where the typical Red Frog rum bar would be on the pool deck, is where Java Blue Cafe is. I guess the only really difference to this one is that aside from doing the coffee and the pastries and the donuts and cupcakes, they also have gelato here as well. It's a decent size.
I thought that was such a bizarre space for the cafe, for the Blue Java Blue. I just did not understand putting it there. It doesn't fit there.
Yeah, it doesn't. You're right. But also, if you look at the design of this ship, before it was a Carnival ship and it was belonging to Costa, those spaces were already there. They didn't build these out just to put them on this deck. They had these venues that had to turn them into something.
It's a matter of, well, we've got the space. What are we going to put there?
Exactly.
Because we're making changes, but we don't want to spend a huge amount of money to deconstruct this and then put something new in. One of the other spaces that I was really excited about, but didn't spend as much time there as I expected to, was the combination of Frizzante and the new Italian restaurant, because I loved the idea of having what was basically a champagne slash fizzy drinks bar. Did you check that out at all?
Yes, I did a lot of I'm not really big with Italian. I'm a vodka soda guy, but I enjoy a decent Aperol Spritz. I don't even know why. I think I had it one time at Italy and Vegas or something at Park MGM, and I was okay, I'm going to stick with this. It's Italian. That's where I would always go to get a drink before dinner, or get an Aperol Spritz. And then my friends on board, they were getting Le Frizzante Spritz. Don't ask me what's in it. It's very clear, though. Probably Prosecco and other things. And then the restaurant, though, which is $42 per person, it is a step up from Carnival's Cucina del Capitano, which is, I think, 18 now on a lot of ships that aren't Excel class. In my opinion, now I've dined there 3 times now, it's worth it for the experience. In my opinion, food is very subjective. But for instance, they have this chicken parm pizza, and I'm like, what the hell is this going to be? And they brought out a pizza. Think of a little larger than a personal pan pizza. The crust is chicken, a really thin chicken, and then a nice...
Really?
Yeah, and then mozzarella and the marinara sauce. But I was trying to think of how to compare Cucina to this one. Not being a foodie, I can say that Cucina is a bunch of Southern Italy, dark red sauces, meatballs, where this one kind of goes all over Italy. It's not just Southern dark. There's also the white sauces. There's also the clam sauces. There's different parts of the menu where it's not just very heavy pasta you'd find in Southern Italy. Not saying they don't have other food, but that's where my mind goes.
And the menu is divided up that way, is right? It tells you what regions of Italy this dish is known for. Is that right?
I believe so. I know that they tweaked the menu. It was definitely different from Venezia, where I think on Venezia, It was massive on Venezia.
The closest I could come to describing it was that it was as if they took Cucina and upscaled it. Said, okay, we're gonna focus less on what you would call quote unquote common Italian dishes and give it a more elevated experience. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. I would say that if you want to have a couples evening, this would be a good place to go, but just realize that they do feed you a lot. You're going to you'll probably be in a food coma after you leave there, but they have this really good dessert. They have your typical cannolis and things like that, but it's called Mile High Gelato Pie. And it was definitely not mile high, but it was pretty darn, probably 6-8 inches off the plate, just stacked on there. And it was more like almost like tiramisu, but a frozen gelato tiramisu with a nice crust on it. And yeah, you definitely should save some room for this.
We're talking foods. Tell me about some of the best, and if there were any, sometimes there's not best. We won't say worst, but we'll say less best stuff or places that you visited during the course of the week.
A couple of new places, I'll say, on the back end, the aft of the buffet, the Lido Marketplace, they have a new wing station back there where the Carnival Deli used to be. It starts at $5 for 6 wings, and it goes up to there. I think you can get everything for all the way up to 60 wings, I think, or something like that. But the wings were decent there. I had Parmesan wings and a Parmesan sauce with ranch dressing. They were really good. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, where would the Carnival Deli be? So you'll find Carnival Deli on deck 11, starboard side, and they have meatballs out there. You're going to have Philly cheesesteaks, everything you'd find at your typical Carnival Deli with a couple of extra things. If you want to just get a side of meatballs, you could do that there. And that's open like Carnival Deli hours from 11 to 11.
Is it also included?
It is included as well. They have like chicken, pork, and beef meatballs when I was on the sailing, and they were actually decent. It was a go-to. A lot of people that, and I was asking, like, why did you put this here? And they were saying that's one of the lessons they learned from Venezia is they need to break up the crowds even more. What they're doing is putting this here as on deck number 11, this market, adding the wing place, which also is self-serving because you could also make some money with the wings. Put this little fly-by-night place up there on deck number 11 for your free deli. But speaking on the outside, food on the back of the ship on the starboard side, normally where Seafood Shack is, that is still there. But breakfast is an omelet station and biscuits and gravy. And at lunch, it's kind of like Shack's Big Chicken. They're not calling it that because probably legal reasons, but it tastes exactly like that, same sauces and everything. And then at dinner time, the Seafood Shack comes into play. So there's actually 3 things happening in this one spot during the day. And the only thing you have to pay extra for, which is a la carte, is the Seafood Shack. Obviously, the breakfast is included, and so is the lunchtime meal. Opposite of that, of course, your pizza place with your 4 or 5 pizzas that they normally serve on Carnival is back there.
Now, I seem to remember I read somewhere that at the pizza place, you now can get the normal free pizzas, but you can also buy specialty pizzas. Is that right?
Yes, they have. I think they're piloting these because they're not on the actual menu yet. It says the Korean barbecue pizza for $6 and the chicken teriyaki pizza for $6. And I did order the chicken teriyaki one just to see what it would be. I had no clue. Yeah, I just ordered it. It needs to be more refined, I think. A healthy choice chicken teriyaki meal that they serve in the frozen section, you heat it up and have it for lunch. It tastes like someone just dumped that on some dough and put it. I say that respectfully because I know that these chefs work hard on developing these things, but the concept needs to be refined a little bit more before they try to sell this for $6.
I respectfully say they took frozen dinner and dumped it. We made a big mistake here in that we are recording this at dinner time and I'm starving. But despite that, was there any place else you tried that was, I assume you went to the steakhouse. You're a big fan of the steakhouse. Did you check out the buffet, those kind of places?
Yeah, the steakhouse was solid. I strolled through the buffet a couple of times and it's almost resembles what's being served in the main dining room. If they're serving spare ribs in the main dining room, it's safe to say there's going to be spare ribs at the buffet that night. The steakhouse was good, solid, $49, about a 2-hour event that night. I did teppanyaki. That was around 40-ish as well. Typical teriyaki on land. You got the volcano happening with the onion and the train and the jokes and the chicken coming out of the hat and all that kind of stuff. Always a good time with a group of people.
I think that's a really big key to teppanyaki. I think I have done it with a group of people, and I have also done it as someone who is sitting with a group of people, and you feel really left out if you're not with a group of people, because it's just much more, it's a group meal. It is a show and dinner, and you want to interact with people, and it's much more fun when you are with a group of people than it is when you are on your own. And that's as much food talk as I can take. So let's move on here. What about shows? What kind of shows did they have? I know you're not a big show person, but you can even combine shows and entertainment.
Playlist Productions on here. They have 2 different shows. Colors of the World, I believe, was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And My Future Husband, which debuted on Jubilee in December. That's carried over to this one. I've seen both of these. I saw the Color of My World one on Carnival Celebration. It's song and dance. And the same thing with Future Husband. What's cool about that one, though, I will give a miss, even though I'm not a person who will sit through watch one of these things. It's very interactive. At the end of My Future Husband, the whole theater and everyone carries all the way to the back of Deck 5 to the Tuscan Lounge. There's a big wedding reception back there with cake, and the dancers and singers are still in character. And for about an hour, dancing. And all
that does sound fun.
Yeah,
that sounds a little bit different. I like that.
I appreciated that. That was really cool to see. As far as the comedians, I didn't get a chance to go check out any of the comedians because there's just, I don't think on any Carnival ship, the Limelight Theater is large enough to hold their comedians. In my opinion, they should just do them all in the main theater.
Totally agree. And I don't understand why they don't. Every time they do it, it's a popular thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to stand in line. It's you have the theater and you're not using it all the time. Why not do that?
Wick, we did a lot of trivia. I've never been a trivia person, but the group I was with, they were like, oh, let's do Friends trivia, or let's do 80s or 90s trivia, or music trivia. We probably did like 5 or 6 games.
Did you win?
No, I think we came in second once. They no longer have the ship on a stick, though. On this ship, it's a little medallion they give you, and only 1 per team is handed out. So the fighter.
I'll tell you, that is one of the biggest disappointments in my life. I remember when we sailed. We were doing Friends trivia at the bar in the Red Frog pub, and I'm never going to get a ship on a stick, and that's one of my life's biggest failures. Where did you go?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask where you went on this trip.
We went to Puerto Vallarta, Mazatlan, and Cabo.
Those all sound, first of all, until very recently, I'm not even kidding when I say I thought Puerto Vallarta was only on the Love Boat. I thought it was a fictional place they made up and that the Love Boat went to. I did not know it was real. Those all sound like kind of cool, exotic ports. Did you do anything there?
I didn't do any excursions on this cruise, but I did get off the ship in every port. But Puerto Vallarta we walked to this, spoke with this local, and we're like, okay, what's the best place to find tacos? He's probably thinking, okay, cliche Americans, get my tacos and whatever. But he's like, okay, so what you want to do? Really cool business owner down there who was straight up, and I thought he was going to hit us up for something after he got done because he was hitting people up before us. But no, he was just straight up, okay, go take this main road, turn right at the light, and then turn left at the right, and you'll see a light, and you'll see a bunch of food trucks out there, and all of them have tacos for $1 a piece, $1 US. We went out there, and sure enough, he turned us on to some really good food trucks out there. And we didn't get sick either. And we had local drinks and lemonades and things like that. And everyone was healthy and fine. So that was a really good spot. I don't want to tell people to go there because if you get hurt, I don't want to get blamed for it. And I like to tend to go off the beaten path and go to adventurous places anyways. But yeah, just ask one of the locals for a good taco spot and they'll point you in the right direction. And that was our day in Puerto Vallarta. Mazatlan, it's a very industrial port and you have to take a shuttle to the port, the complex. Once you get off the ship, I stepped off the ship. There was just too many damn people out there for me. I don't want to be around this many people right now. I just walked right back on the ship. People waiting in line. It was hot, waiting in line for the tram. And it's a free tram, but I had no interest. The next one or the last one was Cabo. And that's a tender port. You drop anchor about 2,000, 3,000 feet from the shore. These tender boats come and bring you to the little marina. And it's really cool. Just off the coast, there's those 200-foot rock or granite formations there standing up out of the water, and people dive out there, snorkel, and take excursions out there. A sight to see for sure. I, on the other hand, went the opposite way to Sammy Hagar's Cabo Wabo Cantina. And, I was a big Toby Keith fan. He passed away about 3 or 4 months ago. And Toby had a house down there in Cabo, and he was always playing down there just for fun. He'd walk in there with his guitar and just jam when he wasn't on tour. There's a ton of pictures of Sammy and Toby there, or Toby just by himself performing. Kenny Chesney, Slash, all these people are all on the walls down there. It's just a really cool venue. And I didn't realize Sammy Hagar opened it back in 1990, and it's still thriving and going strong. And definitely resort pricing as well.
Did you feel the spirit in there?
I don't want to say I felt the spirit. I was fortunate enough to see Toby Keith's very last concert in Vegas in December of last year. It's cool to go down there and I don't know.
I'm going to admit, I don't drinking in the ports because I'm always a drink package person. So I can drink for free on the ship. But you tend not to get the drink package. Did you have the drink package this time?
No, I didn't get it this time. I may have had 7 or 8 drinks the entire cruise. It was just basically the drink before dinner, the Aperol Spritz, or grabbing a vodka soda before dinner, or maybe a nightcap. But otherwise, I probably had 10 drinks, I should say. But yeah, it definitely wouldn't have justified the drink package between the... You also get a couple of big jugs of water for a sweet perk. Plus you had your bottle of water for being a guest, the VIFP guest as well. I couldn't justify drinking that much, not at my age now. When in my 20s, I could do it all day long and then some, but slowing down a little bit.
All right. You enjoy your 7-day trip. You get back. This being an inaugural voyage, I assume that probably the embarkation went fairly smoothly?
Fairly
disembarkation. Sorry.
Fairly not smooth at all.
Really?
I'll give you the abbreviated version here. So I wake up at 6:45 and notice, hey, we're still at sea. Look out my balcony and I don't even see land. I'm like, okay, we're not making that 7 o'clock transfer time, so I have time to hop in the shower. Got out of the shower, went back outside again, and I see a pilot boat in the distance. Barely see the land. Turns out we had to slow down because of some marine life out there. Some whales slowed us down. So we didn't dock until close to 9 o'clock, which had the people just freaking out who had flights at 10 and 10:30 out of LAX, which why would you do that anyway? It took us an hour to get to the airport on a Thursday morning. Can't roll the dice like that, but debark day is always good for a good meltdown.
Always.
Yeah, but otherwise, people getting stopped and you bought too much, you didn't claim it, this, that, the other, but we just breezed on through, and by 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock, I was on the flight flying back here to Jacksonville.
I will say we talk all the time about, we warn people, if you're flying to a port, fly in a day early, so blah, blah, blah. But the other piece of advice that I think is really important that a lot of people forget is that when you disembark, you need to leave yourself time in case the ship gets delayed. It can be delayed for several hours sometimes. And when you get there, sometimes it's hard to get through customs and blah. There's just many reasons that you do not want to be in a race. You don't want to end what was a lovely vacation, hopefully, by stressing out about the fact that you are going to miss your flight. Leave yourself plenty of room. That is a life lesson that I think we can impart to everybody. And having done that, let's now ask your final thoughts on the ship, but I want them from two different perspectives. I want your final thoughts on the ship, what this cruise was for you personally, Doug Parker, and also your thoughts on the ship for someone who is very familiar with the Carnival product, but has not taken one of these new sort of Carnival fun Italian style ships.
It took a little while to grow on me. I wasn't stoked about it at first because I just, anytime there's something you're not familiar with, when you've been familiar with for so many years. I experienced that on the Oasis class ships too. Same thing when sailing Royal prior to that class ship rolling out. And of course, the Excel class with Carnival rolled out. Even like the Viva, when the Prima class rolled out, same thing with Norwegians. It had to grow on me. After my first time sailing, I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. Then I did it again on Venezia, and I'm like, you know what? It's not that bad. And then this time, you know what? I embraced it. It was cool. I will say, with the Italian slant they have on this, if you want a fun Italian style, as they're calling it, it's cool. Just know going in, you'll want to hang out by the back pool if you're a sun person or a hot tub person. Something I didn't even touch on was the Serenity area, which was crowded up out there on sea days. And also, they did add 2 hot tubs up there. There are 2 hot tubs in the Serenity area, which the Costa ship didn't have.
It does feel small up there. It feels tight for some reason.
I think it's all those damn plants they have up there. They all have that shrubbery. Seriously, I think that's what it is.
It could be.
Yeah, they added a Creation salad bar up there to this one. Venezia doesn't have that one. If you want an Italian experience, go to Italy. But if you want a fun one, Vegas style, Venetian, wherever, this is fine. It's a good ship. I liked it. I enjoyed my time on board.
I think it's important to go in knowing I think you have to be a little bit open-minded. Okay, it's going to be Carnival, but it's also going to be a little bit different. And I think if you go in with that mindset that I'm open-minded, I'm looking for something a little bit different, but not terribly different, then I think that is what this ship provides for you.
You have to know where to go and where to find your spot. The Ocean Plaza on Vista class ships is called the Tuscan Lounge on this one. That has plenty of seats when they're not doing trivia in there. The Hero Sports Bar, which is down by the casino, that one has, during the day, is not used at all. On our whole sailing, unless there was a ball game on, no one was in there at all. It was totally empty. The casino, you can smell the smoke in there pretty well. There is 2 different casinos, though. Venezia, there is the big casino, which has 247 slot machines and I think 12 tables. And then you have the annex, which is 40 slot machines and I think 5 tables in that one. If you want the non-smoking, definitely head to the annex. But if you want the selection, you'll definitely want to go with 240 plus slot machines in the big casino floor. And this casino floor is actually a little bit larger than the Vista class casinos too.
Is the annex on this ship as difficult as it was to find as it was on Venezia? You had to search for it on that ship.
It's the same place.
I will say this was a lot of fun, and it might be the only time the words "my stateroom was too big for me" have ever been uttered by anybody who has ever been on a cruise ship. Congratulations. I think you broke some kind of weird record with that one.
Well, look, when you have to burn up future cruise credit, you have to burn up future cruise credit. Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me, man. I really appreciate you.
Always glad to.
I haven't seen you in 13 years, Don Faust. How are you?
Good.
It's crazy.
I asked him if he did his taping. He's like, no.
It was a crazy day today, but we're going to do it right now on the fly.
Okay, that's fine.
Randomly, it's been exactly 13 years to the day that we boarded our first Carnival cruise ship together.
That's crazy. What are the odds of that?
Yeah, Carnival Magic, 2011. A lot has changed at Carnival since then, as far as onboard programming, delicious new watering holes like this Frizzante bar on the Carnival Firenze, where we are right now. What do you think of the Carnival Fun Italian style?
It's pretty good. I mean, it's a departure from the Magic layout, which seemed a bit bigger on the atrium side, and the walking spaces seemed a little bigger, but I think this is trying to look a little more intimate and upscale in a Carnival way.
You're definitely a man about town on these ships. Everywhere we go, there's someone walking up to you and you're talking about either the game or what did you wind up doing last night. You have your finger on the pulse, clearly. So what is it like as far as the different entertainment options and the different bars around the ship? And which one is your favorite?
Well, I like the sports bar, the Heroes. I like Heroes. You know, the hockey playoffs are going on right now, so that seems to be really popular. And we also like the trivia that happens daily. Also, some of the poolside areas are kind of nice to hang out.
Cabo, Mazatlan, Puerto Vallarta. What'd you think?
I liked it because it was my first trip to the west coast of Mexico. So
Same.
To me, it was fresh. So, any new destination to me is exciting, and gave us an opportunity to get off, not only do an excursion, but to do our own thing, see the old parts of the city, have some tacos, see what the local culture is like.
What did you think of Mazatlan? I flew down there, probably 15 years ago and stayed at a little all-inclusive resort. So I never really messed around the port area or anything outside of the resort, basically. What did y'all do over there?
We walked quite a ways in Mazatlan, and I actually liked it. I mean, my first impression when we got to the historic part of the city is it seemed full of art. Like, we like art shops, so we were going in and out of the art shops. And once we got to the beach, it's got a huge walking sidewalk. I mean, huge. It's probably 6 lanes, people lanes wide. And it's apparently the longest beach in the world, as far as what I've heard.
Okay.
And so my first impressions were actually very positive. I thought it looked really nice. The people were friendly. One of the art dealers gave us a recommendation to a very stellar taco place, and we were concerned at first because we walked in and nobody was in there. But then people started rolling in after we did. Chris, my wife, said it was her best enchiladas ever that she's ever had. Yeah.
Bold statement.
Yeah.
Have you been digging the music at all around the ship? You have the strings down there. You have the band playing back here sometimes. Or are you just like a sports guy and maybe go outside and smoke a cigar or whatever?
I do have a cigar, every other day or so. But I do like the band that's back here. What's the venue back here? Do you remember?
Tuscan Lounge.
Tuscan.
Yeah.
I do like the band back there. They do a bit of R&B and pop and, anything from Michael Jackson to Journey. So they're trying to really focus on getting people out on the dance floor, and that was always fun. But every time I walk by the atrium too, I'll see the violinist out there, or the single guy with the guitar. He's there tonight. So that was pretty cool. But I like the Tuscan Lounge.
I wish that woman standing on top of those slot machines would be a little more generous with those coins she's throwing around.
Exactly, yeah. So we can catch a few.
Don, my friend, always good seeing you, buddy. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,